Hello from the studio.
This is my painting of a small gold ribbon. To paint the color gold without using gold paint doesn't have to be a challenge, you just need some practice. And today I'll show you an easy way to practice by painting a quick study using only 4 colors. And also look out for the blue ribbons on screen for other useful tips throughout the video. There are many ways to paint gold, but the 4 colors I used in my study were white, orange, brown and black. I started by looking at the reference and pre-mixing a few colors and values to save me some time and energy later on in the painting. I mixed together some brown and a tiny amount of orange. Then I took some brown with a tiny touch of black. That could do for the shadowed areas. Then I took my orange and added a tiny amount of brown for the main color. And then some white with a tiny amount of orange for maybe the highlighted areas. It's just a few values to start with. We can always add to them as we go along. We're going to start sketching our ribbon with some diluted raw umber. I like to paint my quick studies on toned paper, but you could paint on any surface you choose. So we'll start with a simple square for the gift box. And I'm just doing it freehand, but if you wanted to, you could always measure it out. And then when it comes to the shape of the bow or the ribbon, I'm looking for the halfway point of the page, and I'll just put a little rectangle in for the middle of the bow. And then when it comes to working out the shape of the bow, sometimes it's helpful to look at the shape around the object. That's the negative shape. Sometimes those shapes are easier to look at, and it helps you to judge where to put your elements. So keeping that negative shape in mind, I've marked out where the top of the ribbon should be, where the bow part should be. And I'm thinking in my mind that the bow looks almost like a rectangle with some rounded corners. So I'm just going to keep a nice simple shape here, do a simple sort of rectangle, just keeping my eye on the reference picture at all times and just judging where things should go. And then for the bottom part of the ribbon, for the loose part, it's almost like a very long triangle. In my mind, I try and keep things to a simple shape, and that always helps me to simplify and look at the easy shapes first. We can always fiddle with the shapes later during our painting. One of the benefits of using diluted raw umber to sketch out in this way and not a pencil is that you don't have the pencil line showing through your painting afterwards. So that saves a step too, which also saves some energy. And then if you're using acrylics, you would just dilute it with a little bit of water. In my case, I was using oil, so I just diluted my brown paint with a little bit of medium. Now that our sketch is complete, we can go in and quickly fill in the background. I'm just using raw umber, the brown, for my background, but of course it doesn't really matter. You can choose any color you like. So I'm just using nice quick brush strokes, getting that background in as quickly as I can. So now we can start blocking in our bow with that mix of orange with a touch of brown that we pre-mixed at the beginning of our session. And we'll use our reference photo as a guide, looking for the dark spots. When I was doing this study, I worked out that I would need 2 layers of light colors and 2 layers of dark colors. So for the first light layer, we're going to use our white mixed with the orange, that nice light orange color. And same as what we did with the darks, we'll just look at the reference photo and paint in the lighter areas as we see them. Now, the secret to making something look metallic or golden is to blend the lights and the darks together. So I'm taking a nice, soft, clean, dry brush, and I'm going to very gently mix the edges between the light and the dark together. I'm just going to softly blend them together. It's important not to have a harsh line between the dark and the light. They must flow into each other. Now that we've finished blending the first layer, we're going to take our first darks layer. So we're going to take that dark brown mixed with the orange, the first mix that we made in our pre-mixing stage, and just again looking at the reference, we're just going to put in all the darkest areas that we can see. It can be helpful at this stage just to keep your lines nice and soft. So go back in just with the brush as it is and soften out some of your lines. We don't want to leave any hard lines because ribbons are soft and we need to make it look like it's a soft object. Now our ribbon's already starting to look golden, but we're going to need a second layer of each of the light and the dark to make it more realistic. The more layers we add, the more realistic it becomes. So I'm going to take that light orange again and go in and go over all the white areas that might have been blended out when we were doing our blending. Now we need our ribbon to look like it's lying on a surface, so we're going to add a shadow to it, and this will help with the realism. And for the shadow color, I've just used that black mixed with a tiny bit of brown and added some white to make a grayish color. And this will help to give the illusion that the ribbon is sitting on top of a box. To add to the realism, when I did the shadow on the right hand side, I've left a little gap underneath where the ribbon would be. And to complete the illusion, we can take our soft clean brush again and blend that shadow out to a nice soft, so it almost disappears into the paper. We don't want to see any hard edges on our shadow. So for our second darks layer, we'll go to our third pre-mixed color, that was the orange mixed with the brown, and we'll fill in any dark areas, including the outline of the box. Now we're just going to add some beautiful highlights. We can just take some of our pure white, and we're sort of aiming for the middle of the light area to put the highest highlights. Now we're down to the last minute. We're just going to do some finishing touches. I'm just going to step back from my picture, have a look against the reference, compare the two, and see where I need to adjust maybe some of the lights, maybe some of the darks. Just have a look and sort of judge for yourself. It's very helpful just to take a step back and look at it from a distance. And here we have our completed study of a golden bow. Of course, you could just leave it as a practice piece, or if you wanted to, maybe at a later date when you're rested, you can pick it up again and continue with it until you complete the painting. And to complete the painting, you would just keep building up your layers as you did in your practice piece. Thank you so much for watching and for following along and for subscribing. If you're feeling inspired, you might want to try these tutorials too. And I'll see you in the next video.